in this short video, what I'd like to do is just discuss literature review from the point of view of the marking and grading of one submitted. The reason for doing it in this way is to talk you through the kind of things to look out for in the way you have put your literature review together. Okay, in this video, I'd like to just pick my way through the marking scheme for the literature review. And the purpose of this video is not to give you a definite set of standards to abide by, but to give you some guidance, further guidance of the kind of thing that when your work is being assessed, what it's being judged by and what that actually means. Here's some obvious starting points, first of all. You will be judged on the sources you use and the citation style separately. Now, these are connected. From the marking point of view, for sources, it ranges from absolutely no sources whatsoever, all the way across to all primary or a justifiable mixture of primary and secondary. So you have to be clear in your mind what are your primary and what are your secondary sources. Now, if you're not clear, keep in mind this question here. Are these sources credible? And this question of using Wikipedia as a starting point but not as an end point is a good way of thinking about sources. In your lectures, you would have been told to look at journals as a credible source to look at and not necessarily a magazine article. Now, those are quite important judgments. You may use magazine articles to help you guide yourself to a topic, but you should hunt out the research that stands behind these articles and make sure your sources aren't just those articles that you find very, very useful. You've gone and found some real primary material on the discussion that you're looking at. Now, these are relatively straightforward points to be gained. Make sure the quality of your sources is high. It's very closely connected to another referencing issue, and that's called citation style. Now, this is an easy one to get right. If you are going to cite and use bibliographies, which you should be, it's fundamental, and in your text you're going to use citation, whatever else you do in your write-up, make sure you go through them carefully and you make sure they conform to APA version 6. Okay? Now that's just almost a technical process. It's almost a question of reading through your text, finding your citations and your bibliography and checking for each one you've put in that it conforms to this. If you do that, it helps your citation style grading go up. If you don't use this APA 6, but you put citation and references in and it's all over the place, you will lose points and you will lose marks without any real sense. There's no sense to allow that to happen. Okay. The next area is, if you like, the English and the quality of writing. There are two criteria connected to that. One is called structure, which I'll explain in a moment, and the other, which is the easiest one, is spelling and grammar. Now, this might strike you as an irrelevant thing and superficial because, you can get a spell checker in there to sort out your spelling and grammar. But actually, here's the question. Do your sentences read clearly? And is your grammar and your writing on an individual sentence level clear enough to follow what you're presenting in your work, your analysis and your criticisms? If your spelling and grammar is really messy and awkward, then it will take away marks for you. The best way of doing this is getting someone to proofread it for you. Now, this again is a very easy thing to do, and several of you could help each other by proofreading each other's works and just saying, look, I read that sentence, I didn't quite know didn't quite make sense to me. That's very useful feedback that you can give to each other or from people. And then you look at the sentence and you look at what you're trying to say and realize the actual words and the way you've written it doesn't really reflect what you were trying to say. Now, that is a really important area and an important set of skills, just to be clear and write well. It's closely connected to this thing called structure. Structure is all down to how well is your document, your whole literature review, how well is it organized? Does it just run from one point to the next? Off it goes from one point, then jumps to another point, then jumps to another point. But there's no real structure, no real connection between the points you're making. There's no sense that you sort of sat there and you thought, okay, this is the first point I want to do. It leads to this. I want to explain the connection and this connection and make these joins in my literature review very, very clear. Half a sentence here can help join up paragraphs and can help join up and make the flow and give you the structure you need. That's relatively easy to do, again, if someone proofreads it, or if you're able to proofread your own work and just ask the really obvious question, does it flow? Does it make sense? Does one point suddenly leap out from nowhere from a previous point to suddenly cut off? Is it clear to someone reading it why you are starting to discuss this point, or have you just decided to discuss this point? Have you not said, I am now going to discuss this particular blah, 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 because it's connected to da, 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 da. Have you put anything in like that to help the flow and help the reader? So these two elements, structure and spelling and grammar, all about readability, the clarity, the flow of sentences, and they are very, very important to get right. Don't assume that if you've got poor spelling but good ideas, it's okay. Don't assume if you've got a good analysis but it's jumbled up and there's no real structure and organization to how you put it down, it's good enough, because these are part of the marking scheme. Finally, we come to the two central elements. The first one is analysis and critique. And the second one is something called synthesis and originality. Excuse my spelling. Okay. These are, if you like, the academic skills right at the heart of producing a literature review. It's really down to how well you analyze and criticize. You look at the question you've been given and you pick it apart, your criticism of people and the literature and the comments that people have put in, responded to. Who is it that you are criticizing? Is it, again, a magazine, or is it a genuine article where someone's looked at the issue? Your analysis will also help. I've misspelt that, bear with me a second. Your analysis will also help us identify how well you've grasped the subject. So if you start just saying, oh, I believe so-and-so, and this author over here says so-and-so, it doesn't indicate that there's real analytical processes and thinking going on here. This is, if you remember, not really an essay and an argument for you to express an opinion, but it's for you to critique and to look at the views, the academic and the credible views and researched views of the academic community and others in relation to the problem you've been given. So think, when you're looking at this part, it's the trickiest bit to know that you've done it well. Most people sort of have just a feeling for it. Ask yourself a question. Does your analysis and critique show that it demonstrates a grasp of what people have said? Have you also then made it clear why you're using them, why you think what they said is relevant? And then your analysis of what they've said, have you been able to really pick out the key points of what they're saying? These are kind of critical questions. This is a very large topic, and it's very impossible in a short video to give you everything, but that's just some initial guidance. The other area around is how well you've brought together different concepts, and you have, say you take a topic, you've analysed it, critiqued all the various different issues, and in that process you found this idea is connected to that idea, and they come together and they form a more powerful argument, and that is drawn from this set of references and that from that set of references and articles. That is called synthesis, the ability to bring together different ideas and show how they both might be arguing for a particular angle or making a particular type of statement. It's a very tricky thing to get right. Originality here is an expectation of final year students, and it's very important that you appreciate that the top end expects some element of originality. So I end this video on the two trickiest areas: analysis, critique, synthesis, and originality. These are the two marking criteria which in some way are the fundamental core to what you're trying to do. So when you think about analysis and critique, summarize it in your mind by saying you might be marked, and the way to think about it is, did I do any? Did I do some? Or is most of mine reasonably okay, and with some sort of odd bits which don't make sense? That's a good way of kind of getting a flavour of your own work and seeing whether you've done it. Synthesis, similar kind of thing, similar kind of logic, and it is also quite a tricky concept. So my advice is go through the video, make sure your spelling, your grammar, your structure is all done correctly. Don't lose marks because you haven't been bothered to spell properly. Don't lose marks, for example, because you haven't been bothered to organize the way that you've written it. Okay? Don't lose marks simply because you haven't bothered to reference and use sources and citation in the correct format. Now that's quite a lot of stuff that will support you getting a good grade in this. At the heart of it is your analysis and critique and synthesis, of which all these bits hang off it. But there is nothing stopping you from making sure all of these other assessment and marking criteria are done well.